Hello you lovely lot. If you've been watching any of my social media feeds or any of Castrol Classic UK's, you might recognise this, a Bullnose Mk1 Ford Transit van. So why is it here in England? Because if you remember, last time I saw this, it was in Malta. I was out there seeing some friends, having a holiday with Fuzz Townsend no less, and I got a call from David Scolthorpe at Castrol. He said, Paul, can you go and have a look for me at a transit van? Now you might already guess the punchline to this joke, the end of this story. It was quite good. So we bought it for an undisclosed sum, undisclosed being very cheap, very fair, from a very nice man, and we brought it back to the UK. And you might be asking why. Well, first of all, you may have seen Silverstone Auctions recently had a £55,000 success with a very similar van, £61,000 by the time the commission's gone on. So Mk1 Transit's a very good news. That isn't the reason that Castrol bought it. The reason they bought it, they've always wanted one. And they used to have one. Well, they used to have several actually. So if you look, Castrol used to have these wonderful pit supply vehicles, paddock support vehicles, these oil delivery vehicles, and this is going to have a wonderful life going forward as exactly one of those, an exact replica. So we're here today, the first day it's landed back in the UK, to have a look around, look underneath, because I was in Malta, I was lying on my back in the sunshine, I could only see so much. So today is all about getting it into the workshop, seeing what we've got, and seeing was it worth the money. I think the fact that it starts and moves under its own steam, we can already say, yes it was. So why is it that us Brits get so excited about transit vans? I think it's because, as the name used to be in the advert, they're the backbone of Britain. Everybody had one, your dad had one, your granddad drove one, you use one for work. They've been a big part of all of our lives, but the Mk1, there's something about that in particular. It's a bit bad boy, isn't it? It was used in so many films. If you're going to blag the bookies, rob a bank, this is what you used. And there is plenty of room in the back of a Mk1 Transit. But don't look too closely. She's a fixer-upper, she's a work in progress. But actually, when you start to look inside here, you see a lot of things. There's a lot of metal where normally you see rust. There's a bit of red oxide. There's this rather strange bitumen that's covering everything. But if you look in the corner, the guys in Malta just started to take that away. And actually underneath is really quite fresh metal. So I think there's the bones of a good project here. And our vendor, Chris, he even chucked in 2 arches. So we've got 2 perfect new old stock arches. Some work to do. I think there's 5 figures going to go into this van. We haven't looked underneath yet, so it's all there, he said, hopefully. So you might be wondering, Paul, this was obviously a relatively rust-free, relatively inexpensive transit van. We know these go for 55, 60 grand now. What's the catch? Well, the catch is, even though it does move under its own steam, it doesn't do so with Ford power. This is actually quite dear to my heart, an Isuzu diesel, which is surprisingly reliable, starts on the button, starts immediately when you look at it, has a great gearbox, but not really what you want on an old transit van, is it? So this will be replaced, I am assured, by Team Castrol with a nice 3-litre V6. So this is going to have all the noises, petrol engine. But for now, you know, this will push the old girl along, this will get her into the body shop and back out again. So think of this as temporary measures.
See what I mean about it starting on the button literally every single time? It's like clockwork. The only problem is you're then driving behind that awful diesel clatter. And when you could be driving behind a V6, I think it's definitely right for a swap. Luckily at the back of Castrol Classic is this rather lovely MGOC workshop. We will have a good look over and see if I've pulled a blinder or I am blind. Now, this is where I was starting to feel the pressure a little bit, if I'm honest. Anyone who has ever bought a car or a van on behalf of a friend will know it's not until you actually get it in front of them and they see what you've bought on their behalf, then you really know whether you've done a good job or not. So we got it up on the ramp in the MGOC workshop, and here's what we saw. This is what I saw in Malta. It was generally pretty decent. It's a bit rusty on the surface, but actually where it counts, all the edges are crisp, everything's sharp, and structurally, it's really, really good. It has the thing that all Mk1 Transits seem to have, even if they come from a sunny climate, which is the wheel wells have been very badly repaired, I think in the dark, looking at this. But underneath, that underseal, look, you've actually got original green chassis paint. So as we were peeling this off, in a lot of places, underneath is actually literally what was applied at the factory. She's not bad. There's a few things to do. There's quite a lot of paint work, a little bit of welding, but actually that's a decent van, and that's quite the relief.
Well, I didn't really know how that was going to be underneath. I had a look, the best I could do when I was in Malta, but for an opening section for this van, I think that's turned out okay. So not bad under there. There's plenty of areas that need work, but I can also see loads of original chassis paint and lots of good news. So I think this will be quite a journey. There's a lot to do, but we're starting with a really solid van. We're starting with a van that's got good bones. If you want to see this transform all the way through from that little picture of that model I showed you at the start, in reality, do like and subscribe, join everything that Castrol's doing on this, and make sure you follow us for the entire adventure, all the way through to the end when this is finished, hopefully sometime in 23, 24. But like and subscribe and come with us. See you next time.